Hi everyone, it is yet again the most wonderful time of the year. It is time for the Victober 2021 announcement video. Hi, I am so pleased to be sitting here filming this video in my Is It Victober Yet sweatshirt. It is too hot to be wearing this sweatshirt, but for the sake of the video, I am wearing it. I am all excitement to be telling you about the challenges for this year's Victober, the group read, all of the fun details, and it's just every year I get more excited, and I don't think it's possible to get more excited. And every year I build up the anticipation more, and I find that it is just makes Victober even more fun and fulfilling to build up the anticipation, to spend so much time fine-tuning my TBR and writing out TBR drafts. Let's just draw this fun out as long as we possibly can. I have been doing all of the Victorian ASMR rooms in all of my filming preparation and organizing, and I can't wait to tell you about the challenges. This year there are 3 hosts: myself, Katie from Books and Things, the creator of Victober, and Lucy from Lucy the Reader. In case this is your first year hearing about Victober, Victober stands for Victorian Literature October, aka Victober, where you just read as much Victorian literature as you can. So this means that you read books by authors that are from Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England, and that were published between the years 1837 and 1901, the years that Queen Victoria reigned. Something special was in the air in this time, and so many books were published, also because of printing press technology getting better, and just it made it really easy to print so much literature. So I don't think you will be lacking in choices, and there is just so much information out there. Victorianweb.org is a really good resource, Wikipedia, and so many books you can download for free if you have a smartphone or an e-reader of some sort on Project Gutenberg. So there are a lot of resources in addition to your public library. Your public library, chances are, loans out ebooks, e-audiobooks, and e-books that you can read, and also loans out physical books. So I know maybe some of you, it's hard to get to the library, so if you aren't able to get there physically, you still have some resources that you can access. And it's such a marvelous, marvelous time. I've got a lot of fun content planned, and I always love following the hashtag on Instagram and seeing the other videos that people are putting up. And I've got a lot of fun planned. So without further ado, the challenges. And the first challenge is Lucy's Challenge. And this is to read a Victorian novel with a female main character. I really like this because there's just a big range of books that feature female main characters from different genres, and Lucy will have some great recommendations for you, so make sure you keep a lookout for her video so you can see what books she has to recommend. And Katie's challenge is to read a Victorian novel set in the city and / or the countryside. So you can pick to read one set in the city or to set one in the countryside, or if you really want to go all out, do one set in both. So 2 books for that challenge or 1 book. And Katie will have some great recommendations for you on her announcement video. And then my challenge, I am recycling a challenge. I hope this is okay, but I just thought it was a fun one and worth reusing. I really had nothing else that I could think of that I was feeling inspired about. But this I was feeling inspired about, and that is to read a sensation novel. And I will give you some recommendations for that in a moment. And then the group challenge is to read a popular Victorian novel. Now, my challenge of read a sensation novel and the group challenge of read a popular Victorian novel are really easy to just knock out both. But I do have some recommendations for the group challenge as well. And before I do those recommendations, I will talk about the group read, which I am very excited for because it is a book by my absolutely positively favorite Victorian author, and that is Elizabeth Gaskell, and it is Gothic Tales. So Halloween time, I think, is a really perfect time to be reading this, the spooky season, and it is Victober, so it is Victorian, and it's just going to be wonderful. I haven't really read many short stories by Elizabeth Gaskell, so I'm very much looking forward to reading her Gothic Tales. And just to clarify, in case there was any confusion, the stories that are included in Gothic Tales are The Old Nurse's Story, Disappearances, The Poor Clare, The Doom of the Griffiths, Lois the Witch, and The Crooked Branch. So those are all the stories that are in there, and I have only read The Old Nurse's Story, and I'm going to reread it because it's a short story. It doesn't take very long. Okay, for the Sensation Novel Challenge, some of you might be asking, what is a sensation novel? And there's going to be different answers to this. But I actually did a video specifically on sensation novels last year, and one of the quotes that I think really summed it up beautifully. There is a fair amount of academic writing on sensation novels, but one writer said that it is the quintessential novel with a secret. And I think that's a great way to sum it up. So technically, sensation novels, the period that they were published was between 1860 and 1880. But I think you can be a little bit sneaky with this challenge. And I think if you're going to go with the quintessential novel with a secret, and if it was published during the Victorian era, I think you can count it as a sensation novel. Now, there is kind of a holy trinity of sensation novels that are going to be the first ones you always see recognized, and that is The Woman in White, Lady Audley's Secret, and East Lynne. East Lynne, unfortunately, I do not enjoy. But never fear, because I know that I am in the minority for that. I know a lot of people that read it and really love it. I don't even want to give anything away about the plot. So investigate at your peril and see if East Lynne interests you. I did have a friend say that she thought it felt like a mixture of Vanity Fair and Anna Karenina. I think those are the two that she said. I might be misquoting her on that. But I absolutely, positively adore Lady Audley's Secret and The Woman in White. And these are two, just the sustained tension building that happens throughout these books is amazing. In this one, there is Lady Audley, who is kind of the main character of this story, and she is the new wife to Lord Audley, and his old friend comes to visit him, and his friend just has a bad feeling about Lady Audley and ends up, kind of realizing she has some sort of secret, and he's got to find out what her secret is. It is a pacey page-turner. I adore Lady Audley's Secret, and this was only the beginning of a beautiful relationship with Mary Elizabeth Braddon's writing. And then The Woman in White really has, it's so lengthy, and I cannot believe how just beautifully the tension is sustained throughout here, because this is a long book, right? But I was on the edge of my seat, and it never felt long. It's around 600 pages, and it does not feel long. I highly recommend this on audiobook format as well. It would be a great one to come back to throughout the whole month of October. I did that a few Victobers ago, and it was such a wonderful experience having it to come back to. And then I said that the other Mary Elizabeth Braddon books that I liked, that it was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. So the next one that I read and loved was The Doctor's Wife. And this is her retelling of Madame Bovary. And it is young Isabel, who is a kind of idealistic new young wife. And she ends up realizing that maybe her kind of sensibilities and just her interests, all of that, her personality might not be quite as suited to her more practical husband as she thought. And in addition, what is very fun about this is that it is a book for book lovers. Mary Elizabeth Braddon thought that she was not given enough credit for her skill as a writer because people just wrote her off as writing trashy novels, but they are just so well crafted with interesting characters and beautiful writing. And there is a character in this book who is a sensation novelist himself. So it's also poking fun at itself, but pointing out some of the kind of criticisms that people have for sensation novels that she thought weren't always valid about her books. And I will say, though, if you have not read Dombey and Son, there are major spoilers for Dombey and Son in this. She loves Dombey and Son, which just made me so happy because I love Dombey and Son. So to read that, it was really fun. And just a lot of Victorian literature references, a lot of older books that would have been referenced, like 17th and 16th century books. And it's just excellent. And I love the characterization in this. And the other book that I have read and loved by her, this is a bit darker, and that is Aurora Floyd. So this is probably more autumnal feeling, and Aurora Floyd is the main character. It starts out when she is 14, and she has a bit of a rendezvous with the family's, it's their valet, that's what it is. So the carriage driver. And her father realizes this and says, no, we are having none of this. And he ships her off to boarding school in France. She disappears for a few years. They don't know where she went, and she comes back. And you don't know what has happened in that time, but I love how this book basically feels like 3 different genres in one, and it's marvelous. And then as for any other Wilkie Collins that I have read and loved, I have 2 recommendations for you. And the first one is The Moonstone. And this is a really great one for the spooky season because it is a whodunit or who stole it. There is a moonstone that is bequeathed to Rachel Verinder, our main character of the book, on her 16th birthday. And it goes missing the night of her birthday party, her birthday dinner. And you get to hear from multiple characters that are narrating this in first person. So I love that it switches between narrators and you get to see what happened to the Moonstone. And then lastly is The Law and the Lady. This is about Valeria, who is a new wife. And she knows her husband has a secret. She does not know what it is. So she goes to investigate and finds out that there's so much more that she needs to know. Once she finds out the tip of the iceberg of the things in his past, and I could not put this down. I will say it does have problematic representation for disability in this, so you should go in knowing that. But if you go in, take it with a grain of salt. It's Victorian literature. It should not be judged in the same way. And it's just such a page turner. So a thriller from the Victorian era. And so if we're going with the, quintessential novel with a secret, it kind of broadens more because you don't just have to stick to Wilkie Collins and Mary Elizabeth Braddon. I think I would qualify Sylvia's Lovers as a sensation novel because there is information that is withheld from Sylvia at a, earlier on in the plot, and it has a ripple effect for the rest of the book, and really dramatic, intense things happen. It is high drama. It is set in Whitby, England, and I just adored this book, and I want to reread it soon. I don't think it's going to happen this year because I have other top priorities, but at some point I do want to be rereading it. And then this definitely is a novel with a secret, a burglary, because there is a burglary in this small Welsh town. This book is by Amy Dillwyn, and you spend the book with all of the characters speculating over who committed the burglary. This is not going to blow your mind, but it's a really fun, amusing read, and it's diverting. So for those reasons, I recommend it. And then this one is definitely a novel with a secret, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. You get to see Jane early in her childhood, and then when she's attending Lowood School, which is not a nice place to be in, and eventually when she is hired as a governess in the very mysterious, atmospheric Thornfield Hall. And I just adore this book. It is a very well-loved Victorian novel, and I am definitely in that club. I love Jane Eyre. And then A Welsh Witch by Alan Rain. There is a lot of speculation about our main character, Catrin, and whether or not she is a witch. She is the scapegoat of the town, and she has a really intense, deep connection to the nature that is around her. And so this leads to a lot of speculation. Is she a witch? And then two Charles Dickens that I think fit this category. First is Great Expectations, because our main character of Pip, who can be insufferable at times, but he grows and matures. Our main character of Pip ends up having an anonymous benefactor who pays for his education and his betterment, and you don't know who it is until very late in the book. And my mind was blown the first time that I read this, and I realized finally who the benefactor was. And then Bleak House. There are several plot lines with secrets in this. Esther Summerson is just a really lovely narrator. There's two sections to this book, or two plot lines that are happening, two kind of narration styles, and I loved Esther's in particular, and getting to find out who was going to inherit from this Jarndyce and Jarndyce will that had been written, and there's a lot of speculation about who it will go to, but also some mysteries in the side plots that are really interesting. And then lastly is another Gaskell, and that is Mary Barton. This is really, really lovely, and the more I think about it, the more I want to reread this one as well. It has been a few years, and Mary Barton is an industrial novel, and you're seeing really a lot of the working class, but this does have a big mystery that kicks off about halfway through the book, and I think the pacing feels really different in the second half, but I liked that. It felt like a kind of 2-for-1 price with the book, if that makes sense. And lastly, the group challenge of read a popular novel. So there's two ways you can interpret this. One is to interpret it as popular nowadays, as in you hear about it in pop culture, and within the booktube community you feel like so many people are reading this Victorian novel. Or you can interpret it as popular actually within the Victorian era, and it was a bestseller at that time. So the first one that was definitely way more popular in the Victorian era is The Eyre of Redcliffe by Charlotte Mary Yonge. This outsold Dickens and Thackeray's novels. The year it was published in 1852. I think that's when it was published. I adore this book. If you like Wives and Daughters and Deerbrook, I think this is definitely worth a read. There are so many delicious domestic scenes that happen in this, and I just love the slice of life feel. There are two families, and one family that has this sort of curse in their background. Very unrespectable, unreputable behavior has occurred in this family. And so they view the family as cursed, and you're getting to see how the characters view themselves in light of that and how they view the other family in light of that. And there's some really lovely characters in this. And yes, I adore The Eyre of Redcliffe. Then my favorite book ever, my favorite Victorian novel and my favorite book, Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. If you like slice of life, day-to-day, high characterization, you will enjoy this book. It is about Molly Gibson, who, when she is a teenager and she has grown up without a mother, her father remarries and she inherits not a wicked stepmother, but a very annoying, passive-aggressive, self-involved stepmother and a stepsister. And her family's relationship with the Hamley family that lived nearby. There's so much about class and gender and religion and politics, a lot in this book. And then another Gaskell, and this is definitely popular now still, North and South. Margaret Hale moves from the south of England to a industrial town in the north of England where things feel so different, and she's very homesick, and she meets John Thornton, a man who has worked himself up through just the rungs of society, and he is a mill owner, and they have a very memorable first meeting. And then Middlemarch by George Eliot. Let's recommend some George Eliot. So George Eliot was a best-selling author when she was alive. That doesn't always happen to authors, but Middlemarch is about the town of Middlemarch. You have about 4 or 5 different plot lines that you are following in this. This is not going to be an instant gratification read. You want to take your time with this, but I think if you're willing to take your time with this, it will pay you back tenfold in the amount that you will love it. I adore Middlemarch, but if you want a kind of more accessible George Eliot book, I have two recommendations for you. The first one, this is very harrowing, so you need to go in knowing that. Adam Bede, and it is following a few characters, and there is a big love triangle in this. So if that is not your thing, you probably won't enjoy this book. But I find it fascinating the way that George Eliot writes it out. And the character of Adam, you're really seeing a lot of events through his eyes. And even though there are characters that are really significant to the plot, the book is told through his eyes. He's living in this very rural community. He is in love with Hetty Sorrel. Hetty Sorrel is not in love with him. So thus the book begins. She has incredibly beautiful literary writing, and it is just so worth your time. And then one that is a little bit less sad is Daniel Deronda. This is quite a romanticized view of what it would be to be Jewish in the Victorian era, but I do appreciate it being a stark contrast to a lot of the anti-Semitism that you see in Victorian literature. And I adore the character of Daniel Deronda. There is a character who you spend as much time with Gwendolyn Harleth, but Daniel is my favorite. And you're just getting to see, it's very much a social novel, and getting to see kind of the strengths and weaknesses that there were in Victorian society. And it's very much like a social critique and is so beautifully written. I love Daniel Deronda. And then lastly, I want to recommend Dombey and Son. So, not necessarily popular now. I think people who watch a lot of BookTube, aka Katie from Books and Things, know about Dombey and Son, but it was, it sold very well in its day. I love this book. I'm so glad Katie kept talking it up because it's just such a fun read, and following so many funny side characters, but it's got a really great heart to it as well. Really fascinating. I was so invested in this book, and it was a great book to labor over the course of an October, because it didn't even feel like I was laboring over it, but it is chunky, and I got through it no problem. Also with the help of an audiobook. And then I realized I forgot to mention the bonus challenge. So this year's bonus challenge that we have to make you feel more Victorian while you are participating in Victober is to read aloud a section of a Victorian novel, or have it read aloud to you via a friend or an audiobook. I think that there was a lot of Victorian literature experienced, in Victorian society with people reading aloud. Like I picture kind of a maid, a kitchen maid reading aloud, periodical aloud to the other kitchen staff. Just picture, and the next installment of David Copperfield is in the paper, and they come downstairs and read to everyone after dinner has been served. And I just love the thought of that. So think about doing that challenge, a way you'd like to do that. And that is all of the information for Victober 2021. Don't forget to use the hashtags Victober and Victober 2021. I am on Instagram a whole lot during the month of October. I kind of try to chill out with social media more in November because I've been on so much in October. And my Instagram handle is No Compliments to Your Mother. And just get ready for a whole ton of fun. Thank you as always for watching, and I cannot wait for what will be the best Victober yet.